This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, David Muir.
Good afternoon. We're coming on the air because just moments ago, amid global concern and speculation, Princess Catherine has now revealed her personal health battle and why she kept it secret. The Princess of Wales releasing a video a short time ago sharing she is being treated for cancer. She says she underwent major abdominal surgery in January, which we reported at the time. And she says that at the time, her doctors thought her condition was non-cancerous. After the operation, tests showed there was cancer present, and the princess says the surgery was a success, that she's now undergoing preventative chemotherapy. She calls the diagnosis a huge shock, in her words, to both her and Prince William. Catherine also revealing it has taken time for her to come forward because she first wanted to explain the condition to their 3 young children and let them know she's going to be okay. Here's Princess Catherine in a recorded statement released just moments ago by the royal family.
Personally, for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery. It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment. This, of course, came as a huge shock, and William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family. As you can imagine, this has taken time. It has taken me time to recover from major surgery in order to start my treatment. But most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay. As I've said to them, I am well and getting stronger every day by focusing on the things that will help me heal in my mind, body and spirits. Having William by my side is a great source of comfort and reassurance too, as is the love, support and kindness that has been shown by so many of you. It means so much to us both. We hope that you'll understand that as a family, we now need some time, space and privacy while I complete my treatment. My work has always brought me a deep sense of joy, and I look forward to being back when I'm able. But for now, I must focus on making a full recovery. At this time, I'm also thinking of all those whose lives have been affected by cancer. For everyone facing this disease, in whatever form, please do not lose faith or hope. You are not alone.
The statement from Princess Catherine from Buckingham Palace just moments ago, an extraordinarily raw and personal statement from the princess herself, talking about how she is now undergoing preventative chemotherapy for cancer that was discovered in tests that followed that abdominal surgery that we reported back in January. As you know, back in January, Buckingham Palace only revealed that she was undergoing that surgery, was not expected to resume royal duties until around Easter. She was mostly out of the public eye, appearing with Prince William at a farm in Windsor just a few days ago. There was video of that seen around the world. A Mother's Day photo of Princess Catherine and her children raising questions when it was learned that the photo was digitally altered. Catherine undergoing surgery at the same time and at the same facility as King Charles, who revealed he was being treated for a prostate issue. The palace later informing the public that he has cancer and is being treated for that. They have not specified which type. Let's stick to Princess Catherine for now. I want to bring in Maggie Rulli outside Buckingham Palace in London. Maggie, what more have we learned?
Hi, David. I think right now people are just still in shock from this news. You know, even Catherine used that word. This is shocking. We have been following this story for weeks now. We've seen this global concern for her health, but it really feels as almost no one felt that this was the diagnosis, a cancer diagnosis for Princess Catherine. I think right now people do have a lot of questions. People ask Kensington Palace what kind of cancer, what stage of cancer. Right now they are saying this is a private matter and it's going to stay that way. I think for me what's also so shocking is thinking of Kate right now. She's so young, 42 years old, a mom to 3 young kids. She talks about them in that personal video of giving them time to process this. She's been in relatively good health. She's athletic. I think, again, hearing this news, the country is going to need time to process this. Right now, it's really flooring people.
Maggie Rulli, right there outside Buckingham Palace. Maggie, thank you. I want to bring in our royal contributor, Victoria Murphy, as well. And Victoria, you've learned more about why the timing has been as such, learning now the people of the UK and certainly around the world listening to this message from Princess Catherine. You heard her reference there. She needed time to explain this to their children, but an extraordinary moment. And in fact, I can't remember one like this from the royal family.
No, exactly, and neither can I. And now we have a situation where we have both the King and the Princess of Wales being treated for undisclosed forms of cancer. It really is unprecedented, and it does have that very destabilizing effect, David. I mean, I was in a call with Kensington Palace earlier on today where this was laid out for us and it was explained to us. And as Maggie said, the overriding sentiment there was just complete shock that this is what we are hearing. Some of the things that they were very keen to get across, one was that this decision to announce this is not some kind of reaction to these conspiracy theories that have been swirling. This is about the princess deciding in her own time to announce this in the way that was best for her and her family. And I think it was very important to her to do that in her own words, in a video message, to talk directly to the public who has been so interested and so keen to know how she is doing and to tell them. And the other thing that I really felt came across, David, was how so much of the decisions that they have made in the past few weeks have really been about focusing on their children and putting their children first. And even the timing of this announcement really is all about, I think, protecting the children, because their children, George, Charlotte and Louis, have just broken up for their Easter holidays there. So they're now able to take the children away from their school environment, keep them in a bubble with them and really protect them from the outside world while this news and while this reaction hits the rest of the world and while people are talking about it. The inference there that we got from that discussion that we had with Kensington Palace was that it took them some time to tell the children. It doesn't seem like the children were told straight away, but they are not giving us lots of specific information about what has gone on behind the scenes because they are also trying to maintain their privacy.
Victoria, I would also imagine, and I'm assuming this from the timing of this, in mentioning that the children are home now for the Easter break, they won't be surrounded by other young people, other folks who might be able to ask questions at school and elsewhere, that this will be a time for the family and a somewhat protected time also would explain why there's been this sort of time frame in waiting to tell the public.
I think that is exactly right. I think that is exactly it. She has been processing this information. She's been discussing it with her husband, and they've been considering how to talk to their children about it, bearing in mind that their children go to school, they go to school with other children, they interact with other children. Even things like telling their children something like this and then asking them not to talk to anyone about it is a difficult thing to do. So all of these things will have been going on in their minds. And I think the timing of this announcement is about the fact that they can now take their children away from the outside world. They're going to be having time as a family, and we've been told that not to expect to see them appear at that Easter Sunday service. This announcement also answers that question that had sort of been bubbling up recently: when are we going to see her next? Because of course there was a video of her seen walking, looking well, looking in good spirits, and so people were starting to ask, well, will she be at the Easter Sunday service with other members of the royal family? And so this now answers that question and gives us a lot more context for understanding why they're not going to be there as a family.
Victoria Murphy with us here as we report the breaking news from Buckingham Palace. Princess Catherine revealing a short time ago that she is undergoing preventative chemotherapy for cancer. Victoria, thank you. I want to bring in Dr. Darian Sutton, who's with me here on the desk in New York. And it's really impossible to speculate what's happening here, at least from a medical perspective, because when you hear preventative chemotherapy, this really could be a category for a number of different types of cancer.
Absolutely, David. So when you talk about preventative chemotherapy, it really depends on what type of cancer we're talking about. It can be different from one patient to another. The main goals of preventative chemotherapy commonly when they're used in the world of oncology is, number one, to prevent the risk of recurrence. And then in certain cases, the surgeon or the oncologist might be concerned that there are residual cancer cells there. And again, that goal of that preventative chemotherapy is to prevent those cancer cells from becoming a problem in the future.
So that's sort of two different categories. There could be a situation where the cancer they believe is out, but that they would prescribe preventative chemotherapy to make sure, or to try to ensure it doesn't come back. There could be another scenario, for example, where they might believe there could be some cancer left and they want to try to go at it right away. And
that is quite possible. And also the type of chemotherapy is also indicated or dictated by the type of cancer we're talking about. In certain cases, you can have targeted chemotherapy, and in other cases, you can give more general chemotherapy. Now, that's important for the patient to know about, just in terms of what to expect.
And when we hear about abdominal surgery back in January, this had been reported at the time, it would likely be foolish to assume that this is abdominal cancer. It could be any number of different types of cancer based on what they discovered afterwards, according to the Buckingham Palace here.
That's exactly correct. So when you talk about abdominal surgery and abdominal cancers, that can include a variety of different causes. We can talk about stomach cancer, we can talk about colon cancer, and we can also talk about uterine cancer and ovarian cancer. All of these cancers, as well as other types of cancers, can be possible, but we do not know that information as we respect her privacy.
We're getting reaction from the Prime Minister of the UK, Dr. Darian Sutton. Darian, thank you. I want to bring back in Maggie for reaction from the Prime Minister. What are you hearing?
Yeah, we just heard from the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, here in the UK. He had a statement: the love and support of the whole country goes out to the Princess of Wales after she announced she's undergoing treatment for cancer. I think, David, it can't be overstated how important the royal family is for this country, and the fact that the Princess of Wales, the future queen, just announced that she has cancer. It's really rocking this country right now so much. The Prime Minister made that statement almost immediately after her video was released.
Maggie Rulli outside Buckingham Palace. Maggie, thank you. Our Chief Medical Editor, Jen Ashton, also with us on the phone. And Dr. Ashton, just to add what Dr. Sutton was offering just moments ago, when you hear from Buckingham Palace that they discovered the cancer in testing following the surgery, that's not uncommon.
Right, David. I mean, I think when people hear this story, if they're undergoing elective scheduled surgery, it can be frightening, right, to think you're going in for surgery for one thing and you come out then sometime after the surgery in the postoperative period with a diagnosis of cancer. It's important to understand that before we take a patient to the operating room, there are certain tumor markers that can be tested for with blood tests, and then there's imaging, CAT scans, MRIs, ultrasounds that tend to give the surgeon an idea whether something is malignant or benign. After the surgery, when the patient goes home to recover, that's when the pathologists are going to be studying those specimens, and that's why there can be a delay and getting a cancer diagnosis somewhat unexpectedly in the postoperative period.
And Dr. Jen, when you hear Princess Catherine in that message toward the end, they're saying, I am well, I am getting stronger every day, I must focus on a full recovery now. What does that tell you?
Mind-body connection, David. You and I have talked about it before. It's so important when people recover from any operation, whether it's routine, whether it's scheduled, or whether it's emergent. The mind has to heal and the body has to heal, and those processes take time, and someone's spirit and someone's mindset is as important as their physical condition going into that period.
And we cannot overstate the fact that she is 42 years old, the mother of 3 young children, so she ought to be afforded all the time that she needs to get stronger and to get better. Jen Ashton with us as well. Jen, thank you as always. I want to bring in ABC News contributor, royal editor at the London Evening Standard for one final thought here. Robert, you and I have been on the air covering the royals so often, and I can't remember a situation, first of all, where we've heard Princess Catherine at this length in front of the camera with a message being seen by the world, and certainly under these circumstances, but also big picture here to know that the king is battling some form of cancer, and that Princess Catherine now says she's being treated for preventative chemotherapy for a type of cancer as well. This is an extraordinary moment for the royal family.
Well, David, as Maggie said, this is deeply, deeply shocking. I think a lot of people didn't expect anything like this. Not only to have the king, who's obviously not really, only he's carrying out constitutional duties, but he's recovering and being treated for cancer. But the other real star performer, the Princess of Wales, to come out and what I thought was a courageous statement, the way she gave that address. It showed what a steely character she is, and what your guests have been saying about how important it is for her to have the mental application to deal with this. I have no doubt whatsoever she has that. She's somebody who I think is a very strong person. You know, not only is she the mother of 3, but she's deeply committed to the royal family and to making sure that she, and I think there was what I felt in that statement was that real determination to beat this, and I'm sure that the media will give them the time and space that they need, but it does, on the bigger picture, put a lot of pressure on Prince William, the Prince of Wales, the heir to the throne, and the other members of the royal family. There are fewer and fewer, it seems, but with the two star performers, the King and the Princess of Wales, out of action, it does draw a lot of attention on Prince William, who's got a lot to deal with at the moment.
Robert Jobson with us as well this afternoon as we report the news that's coming in from Buckingham Palace. Princess Catherine and that statement to the world, to the people of the UK and certainly around the globe who've been concerned about her absence in recent weeks, saying she is being treated with preventative chemotherapy for a cancer that showed up in testing following that abdominal surgery. We should mention the White House addressing this just moments ago, saying our thoughts are with the Duchess of Cambridge and her family, her friends during this incredibly difficult time. Certainly we wish her a full recovery. We respect their privacy, especially at this time. I should note that also quite telling in that message, at least for me, was the fact that she pointed out the millions of others, certainly through the UK and around the world, who are battling some form of cancer. She indicated that her thoughts are with them as well as she fights this in what has become a very public way beginning today. Our coverage is going to continue. ABC News Live, abcnews.com, and of course, I'll be back with the entire team a bit later for World News Tonight.